In international politics, moments of high drama often unfold not on the battlefield, but in the quiet choreography of diplomacy. Such is the case today, as Donald Trump pushes for a face-to-face meeting with Vladimir Putin, a move that has rattled Washington, unsettled Europe, and left Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky anxiously watching from the sidelines. To understand why this moment matters, we have to look not only at the personalities involved, but also at the broader stakes for Ukraine, for NATO, and for America's global standing. At the center of the drama is a single question. Can Trump's pursuit of direct talks with Putin deliver results, or does it risk undermining the very cause he claims to want to resolve? Donald Trump has never been shy about his diplomatic instincts. He views personal relationships with strongmen as the key to resolving disputes. His logic is simple. Why wade through layers of bureaucracy and cautious advisors when two leaders can cut through the noise and strike a deal themselves? This approach has guided him in the past with North Korea's Kim Jong-un, China's Xi Jinping, and Turkey's Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Now, as the war in Ukraine grinds into yet another bloody year, Trump has set his sights on Putin. His allies claim he can succeed where Joe Biden and European leaders have failed, by forcing Russia and Ukraine into a negotiation room and ending the war through sheer willpower. Trump himself has framed it in characteristic fashion. One meeting, one deal, and this war is over. To his supporters, it's bold leadership. To his critics, it's reckless naivete. Either way, it's a calculated gamble that could reshape not only the war, but the entire architecture of European security. For Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, Trump's maneuvering is nothing short of alarming. Kyiv depends heavily on American aid, military, financial, and political. Every shift in U.S. policy reverberates across Ukraine's battlefields. The idea that Trump might sit down with Putin without Ukraine present, or worse, pressure Kyiv into concessions in exchange for peace, is deeply unsettling. Zelensky has said repeatedly that Ukraine cannot and will not accept any deal that legitimizes Russia's territorial conquests. For him, any compromise on sovereignty, whether it involves Crimea, Donetsk, or Luhansk, risks undermining not only Ukraine's independence, but the very principle of international law. Yet he also knows that alienating Trump could be disastrous. If Washington cuts or conditions its support, Ukraine's ability to resist Russia collapses overnight. That is the uneasy balance Zelensky now faces. How to defend Ukraine's red lines while keeping America's mercurial former president on his side. From Moscow, Trump's outreach looks like an opportunity. Putin has long believed that time is on Russia's side, that Western unity will eventually fracture, that sanctions fatigue will set in, and that American politics will turn inward. Trump's push for a direct meeting appears to validate that belief. If Putin can extract concessions without retreating from Ukraine, he secures a strategic victory. If Trump pressures NATO to reduce its military aid, Russia gains breathing space. Even if no deal emerges, the optics of being courted by Washington on his terms reinforce Putin's narrative that Russia cannot be isolated. But there are risks for Moscow, too. Trump is unpredictable. His desire to appear tough could backfire, pushing him to demand more than Putin is willing to concede. And a failed meeting could just as easily rally Western resolve, reminding Europe of the dangers of appeasement. What happens if Trump and Putin meet? The answer depends on what they choose to put on the table. Best case scenario, the two sides agree to a temporary ceasefire, prisoner exchanges, and a framework for future talks that keeps Ukraine's sovereignty intact while freezing hostilities. That would buy time, reduce bloodshed, and perhaps create momentum for a broader peace. Worst case scenario, Trump accepts a deal that locks in Russia's territorial gains, reduces U.S. commitments to NATO, and sidelines Ukraine from its own future. That would not only embolden Moscow, but also send a dangerous signal to China, Iran, and other authoritarian powers watching closely. For Europe, the outcome is existential. A strong U.S.-Russia deal could stabilize the continent, but a weak or lopsided one could fracture NATO and undermine decades of security guarantees. For America, the risk is credibility. If allies believe Washington can abandon them for the sake of expedience, the ripple effects will be global. As Trump pushes forward, Zelensky is caught in an impossible bind. He cannot openly oppose Trump's initiative without risking U.S. support. He cannot accept Russian concessions without betraying his people. And he cannot afford to be sidelined while others decide Ukraine's fate. This is why the coming weeks matter so much. Will Trump consult Kyiv before moving forward, or will he treat Ukraine as a bargaining chip? Will Putin see the meeting as an opening for real negotiation, or simply as a chance to manipulate U.S. politics? And will Zelensky find a way to remain at the center of discussions, rather than being forced into the margins? Trump's push for a Putin meeting is not just about diplomacy. It is about power, leverage, and the delicate balance between peace and betrayal. If handled wisely, it could open the door to serious talks that save lives and stabilize Europe. If mishandled, it could mark the beginning of Ukraine's abandonment and the unraveling of Western unity. For now, Zelensky can only watch, anxious, wary, and determined not to let others decide Ukraine's future without him. The world, too, is watching. And as history has shown, the line between breakthrough and disaster in high-stakes diplomacy is razor thin.